Hello. So in this video, we're going to talk about Rodman Flender's film Leprechaun 2. So this is obviously the second installment in the Leprechaun franchise of horror movies. And this film, which was released to theaters, did so poorly that they would not release another Leprechaun film in theaters for 20 years. Yeah, this film came out in 1994, and it was so bad that they would not release another Leprechaun film in theaters until 2014. There's a number of other Leprechaun movies that came out during that time, but they came out as like straight to video or whatever it is. Warwick Davis renews his role or reprises his role as the Leprechaun. We learn his name in this, Lubin, the Leprechaun. And it strangely seems quite disconnected from anything that happens in the original film. The Leprechaun looks similar. We have the same obsession with his gold, because at one point, Cody Ingalls, who is the hero of this film, I guess, ends up with a piece of the Leprechaun's gold, and so the Leprechaun pursues that piece of gold relentlessly, but that's not the primary plot focus. The primary plot focus is that in, say, about 994 in Ireland, the Leprechaun is going to... The film uses the term marry, but that's not quite right. Basically, he's going to enslave as his wife / sex slave the daughter of William O'Day, who is one of his, I guess, slaves. Didn't really know that leprechauns kept slaves, but I guess they do. I'm really not familiar with that bit of leprechaun lore. Not that I'm an expert on leprechaun lore, but apparently every 1,000 years, a leprechaun is allowed to take a wife, and that wife does not really have to consent to being the wife of the leprechaun, which of course is extraordinarily problematic. But the ritual is that if the woman sneezes 3 times on this particular night, and no one says, "God bless you," then she becomes his wife / sex slave. The leprechaun, in the opening bit, the leprechaun basically says to William, "This is the rules. If I get married, I will free you." And William chooses to give up his freedom to prevent the leprechaun being married to his daughter. So when she sneezes the 3rd time, he says, "God bless you," and then tries to run off, and the leprechaun kills him. Whatever. But the leprechaun also is like, "I will follow your family lineage for 1,000 years, and in 1,000 years, when I have my 2000th birthday, I will marry a woman descended from you." Apparently that's like 7 generations, according to the chronology of the sort of family tree line that we see during the credits, the opening credits. So I don't think they actually know how long a generation lasts, but you know what, whatever. 1,000 years is well more than 7 women. But I don't know, maybe it was mostly sons. I don't know. Anyway, it's not that important. What is important is that we get to 1994-ish, And Bridget Callum, who's living in, I think it's LA, and dating Cody Ingalls. Bridget Callum is the descendant of William O'Day, the person that the Leprechaun has sworn to marry. And so the Leprechaun has made his way from Killarney. They established that is where he's from, to Los Angeles. And basically he gets her to sneeze the 3 times. Cody is about to say, "God bless you," and the Leprechaun strangles him with a phone cord, magical phone cord strangling. So I feel like this is actually one of the differences from the original film. I feel like in the original film, and I might be misremembering this, but I feel like in the original film, the Leprechaun was physically doing stuff to people. It wasn't like, "Aha, I've from a different room used the phone cord to strangle you. Ha ha ha." Because I feel like that would make it much, much easier for the Leprechaun to actually have just killed them in the first film. But in this one, he's got the ability, he's got telekinetic abilities, he's got the ability to basically sort of create a hallucination in somebody's mind. So there's this one guy, I think Tim Streer, but I can't remember exactly what the character's name was, where the Leprechaun sort of creates the illusion, because he's into Bridget, but she doesn't want to break up with Cody and date this guy, even though she is pissed at Cody at the beginning for its things. It doesn't matter. It's not that important. So the Leprechaun basically sort of creates this illusion in the garage that Bridget is there, and she's like, "Oh, I've changed my mind about having sex with you. Come have sex with me." And he comes into the garage. This guy, I'm gonna call him Tim because I think that's who he is. Doesn't matter though; it's not that important a detail. But he comes in and he's all like, "But you said you loved Cody," and she's like, "Well, here's my boobs." And what it actually is some manner of like rotating blades of some kind, and I don't really know what that machine is. But basically, the Leprechaun telekinetically turns it on while convincing this guy that it is Bridget topless, and so he puts his face into these blades and gets his face sliced off, which kills him. He dies, so that's fine. He doesn't really matter. He's basically just there to die, so cool. But I don't feel like the Leprechaun had those abilities in the first film, right? I feel like in the first film, since his goal was basically just, "I want my gold back. I've got 4 people trapped in a house." Like, if you can just telekinetic and create hallucinations, you could fucking destroy them really easily. So these seem like additional abilities that are not in the first film, as far as I remember, which would have made the first film much, much shorter, because he would have just killed them pretty much instantly. Strangely enough, another gap is that the Leprechaun is not able to harm Cody as long as Cody has a piece of the Leprechaun's gold, which was not the case for the original film, right? Because the dude, fucking whatever his name is, who I can't remember his name, but the big guy who seemed to be have a learning disability, or whatever it is, he swallowed a piece of gold, and the leprechaun was perfectly capable of harming him. So that's a distinction. Not real clear why Cody having a piece of the leprechaun's gold would make him invulnerable to physical harm by the leprechaun. But also, the leprechaun is vulnerable to iron. That actually makes sense to me, right? Because in much lore about the Fae, they are vulnerable to iron, wrought iron especially, right? That they can't touch iron, they can't work with iron, they can't, whatever. Iron can harm them. Iron is bad for them. So the fact that the leprechaun in this is vulnerable to iron and anything iron can be used to sort of fend him off, cool. That, to me, aligns with leprechaun and Fae lore more generally. The 1,000 years you can marry someone thing, I've never heard of that before. That seems like a contrivance. But again, like the point of this film is not necessarily, if you watch Leprechaun 2, you will have a good sense of the actual lore surrounding leprechauns or the Fae or whatever it is. Like, that's not the goal of it. The goal is for it to be a horror movie. And indeed, the leprechaun does kidnap Bridget, takes her into his lair, and he's going to make some modifications to her, both to her body, so that she can, like her abdomen and reproductive system, whatever it is, so that she can bear litters of baby leprechauns. But also, he's going to modify her face to make her look more leprechaun-y. So that the children will accept her as their mother, whatever. He doesn't get around to doing either of those things because Cody is trying to recover her, and then the leprechaun gets obsessed with trying to get the gold back, etc., etc. So that sort of diverts the initial marriage plan. And then Cody and Bridget end up basically, like, she works from within the cave to try and escape and defeat this leprechaun. Cody works from the outside to try and rescue her, etc., etc. It's an almost shockingly beautiful love story, by which I mean very dumb and contrived and doesn't make that much sense, but good enough. Oh, the other thing that substantially differs between Leprechaun and Leprechaun 2 is that, apart from a brief mention in the opening sequence where the leprechaun says to William O'Day, "Your shoes are filthy," there is no shoe elements to this, right? That was a big thing in the original movie. There was substantial use of shoes to distract him. They would mess up shoes and he would compulsively need to clean them. No discussion of that whatsoever. No shoe elements in Leprechaun 2 beyond that one mention in the opening sequence. So that's fun. It is always interesting. I like franchises are weird in that sense, right? Especially something like horror franchises, because you would expect with a franchise where you have a central figure or central sort of whatever, you would expect a degree of continuity. There's a lot of incontinuities here, right? Of things that they built up in the first movie as these are defining characteristics of this leprechaun. And then in the second movie, those are either abandoned or new characteristics are introduced that are very, very different. And it's it's strikingly inconsistent.